After the ISIS India head Haris Faruqi and his aide were arrested in Assam's Dhubri, another arrest linked to ISIS has come to the fore from the very same state. An IIT Guwahati student was detained yesterday after reportedly sending emails to several people, such as the Assam Police's Special Task Force IGP, stating that he was moving to Afghanistan's Khorasan province to join the terrorist organization, the Islamic State. A black flag, similar to the IS flag, was seized when he was brought to the Special Task Force office in Guwahati for an investigation. He had even made an announcement on social media saying that he was on his way to Khorasan. He is a fourth-year BTech student who hails from Delhi's Okhla, and he publicly announced that he's joining a terrorist organization. And another interesting link here that emerges. ISIS Khorasan is the group who claimed responsibility for Friday's terrorist attack in Russia's Moscow, which left over 130 people dead. And now joining us on the broadcast, we have retired Major General Rajan Kochar, who is a defense expert. Beyond that, we also want to welcome Dr. Vikram Singh, who is a former DGP of Uttar Pradesh as well. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here on Mirror Now to discuss this very important issue. All of this is also coming ahead of the Lok Sabha elections, which is why this matter finds importance. Mr. Kochar, I want to come to you first. What I wanted to ask you is, since you're a defense expert, India this week has dealt heavy blows to ISIS. First, the India head of the terrorist organization was arrested, along with his aide. Now a potential joinee has been held. Could you tell us more about India's fight against ISIS and how exactly it's evolved in the last decade?
Very interesting question. We recently had the ISI head, Farooq, arrested along with his associate in West Bengal. And now we have this student who has been indoctrinated and who's been radicalized, and he is being caught. If you remember last year, there was a crackdown by the NIA on 44 locations in Maharashtra and Karnataka. Thane is the hub of the ISS. Today, NIA has got 112 cases being investigated with the ISS involvement of the people in India. And the specific question that how are we actually going about it? There are two, three aspects which the intelligence agencies are keeping a watch on. One is the social media, because the way this radicalization takes place is through Facebook and Telegram. There is a group of the ISS on the Telegram which actually approaches these young youth who are generally Muslims who may have some kind of personal grievances because they build upon this kind of a weakness in the individual. A second aspect is that cross-border movement. We are aware in Bangladesh, ISIS is very, very strong. There is a group in Bangladesh, a Muslim organization, which is part of the ISIS. Earlier, there is a module of the ISS in India which was established in Kashmir called Vilay-e-Hind. This module was operating in Kashmir earlier, but because of the presence of our security forces there and of a number of these ISS operatives who were actually caught, they have moved towards the southern and the eastern side of India. And the area of concern is the borders. You see, Bangladesh border, we are aware there is a fair amount of infiltration which takes place from the border. And the people who are crossing the border also need to be properly checked, the antecedents and etc. Second aspect is the Myanmar border. We are aware of the problem which took place in Manipur, and it has been the cause of this situation where we have not been able to fence the border. Now the Home Minister has made a public statement and he has started on this. The third important aspect is Kerala. We have found, if you remember a few years back, certain Indians who had joined the ISIS and who were involved in attack in a Gurdwara in Afghanistan, were from Kerala. So, according to our information, today there are at least 100 to 150 Indian origin fighters who are part of ISIS. The main hub today of the ISIS is Syria, because to some extent in Iraq,
Okay.
their movement has been controlled. But they are quite active in Syria, and that is why we find the Russian army is there in Syria to ensure that these ISIS elements don't move to Russia. And you are actually aware of the attack which has taken place yesterday, where ISIS Khorasan has claimed responsibility for the attack. So we are quite sure that ISIS is planning a similar kind of a module or a similar kind of attacks in India. They don't have that kind of numbers in India, neither they have that amount of influence, because over the years we have seen that whatever methods the ISIS has tried to employ to waylay those Muslims of India, they have actually practically not succeeded much. You are aware that we are the one-third largest Muslim population in the world today. In spite of that, we do not have so many footprints of the ISIS in India. And I'm sure with the coordination of our intelligence agencies, in close coordination with the intelligence agencies of like Interpol and other CIA and all these agencies which are actually working together, we will be able to identify these elements. And that is why this individual has also been arrested, because we have found that the National
Absolutely,
Intelligence
Dr. Koch,
Agency is quite
Mr.
active on
Kocher,
this.
very interesting points that you're raising. I do want you to hold on for 1 second. We're going to come back to you. We also want to cross over to Dr. Vikram Singh, former DGP UP, who remains with us on the broadcast. What I want to ask you is, this student had written a letter to the Assam police. Do you think he wanted to be stopped? Why alert the authorities?
May I submit that it is a cause of grave concern that a fourth-year IIT student has been apprehended with ISI's links. What he wrote to the Assam police also is an indication and a window to his personality and the wiring of his mind. And what General Kocher has mentioned, that it needs to be not only addressed, but also nipped in the bud. How do you nip it in the bud? You nip it in the bud by addressing the telltale signs. One doesn't become radicalized overnight. There should be cyber patrolling, and patrolling in the cyber area, also the social media. General Kocher had lucidly mentioned Telegram, Facebook, I would add Twitter, and also the encrypted apps that are customized and built only for such undesirable and anti-national and other such undesirable activities. They have to be patrolled. But our prowess is such. I take you back to the days of Simi, Indian Mujahideen, and also the PFI. You would recall that after the 7th October attack by the Hamas on Israel, no other than, and to quote General Kocher Saab, that in fact somebody called the ex-deputy leader of Hamas on a video conference. Where was the need? You also had the indication that not only people from Kerala, but Sanjarpur, from Azamgarh, also after the Batla House and before the Batla House encounter, went to Khorasan and went also to Syria to become the jihadis. This imaginary and virtual and a pseudo fight against humanity needs not only to be checked in the bud, but also crushed in the bud. It is easier said than done. But today, in a scale of 1:10, if in the year 2010 we were 1 out of 10, today we are at the level of at least 8 out of 10. The NIA, the technical prowess, the technical competence, also the ability to surveillance, and also the physical surveillance, the coordination between various police forces. Because, yes, it is agreed that Kerala, Kashmir, West Bengal, Assam are the hotbeds and the sensitive areas. But I gave you the example of Lucknow in Uttar Pradesh, as also Azamgarh in Uttar Pradesh. It is impossible to predict where the next recruit is coming from. That is where the danger lies. I refer to the book on ISIS by Jessica Stern, a masterpiece on ISIS. That would be a good read for all who are interested in ISIS, their future plans and their roadmaps. But yes, it is a cause of concern, and I would compliment GP Singh, DGP of Assam, for apprehending this young man, and also a thorough interrogation which needs to be shared with all intelligence agencies. What happened, and everything was going his way, a Delhi resident, an IIT almost a pass out. But yes, he chose to wage an imaginary war. That needs to be a case study and shared in all the police training academies.
Absolutely. Dr. Singh, I would also wanted to ask you that, he was a fourth-year BTech student, seemingly radicalized to the extent that he wanted to join the Islamic State. Why do terrorist organizations target youths?
They target the youth primarily those with a technical prowess. As General Kochar had mentioned, that those apprehended in Thane and in the recent years, and those who attacked the Gorakhnath temple also was an IIT pass out. He was working in a multinational. The technical prowess that these recruits have, that they can not only make homemade bombs, but they also have the prowess to create and fabricate bombs that are very sophisticated and would have the footprints and incorporate the latest technology like IED, etc. Therefore, the weakness for IITs, engineers, and those with a technical background, because for them, it is much easier to access the net, fabricate a local bomb, and make way their escape. Perhaps their intelligence IQ is such that they perhaps would be a better recruit for these devious purposes. Therefore, the youth, and especially with special emphasis, those who have the technical prowess rather than those who are graduating in history or economics, perhaps may be relevant, and they are recruited, as in the case of Thane. But in Thane also, there's a terrible lesson that we all must learn. He was a person who was earlier convicted for 2 bomb blasts. And we allowed the grass to grow under the feet, that this man created a village that was totally dedicated to the ISIS ideology. How did we allow such a thing to happen? And he was almost prepared with many, many dozens of rockets to attack Mumbai in last Diwali. We should be a little more alert in such matters. Mm-hmm. Those who have been convicted earlier, those who have been on the radar, there's something known as surveillance, physical and also electronic, and nobody should be given the go-by. And I do hope that those who were lax in this case of Thane should be taken to task in the police and otherwise.
Absolutely. Dr. Singh, Major General, coming to you now, what are the challenges that forces face when fighting against a terrorist group?
A very interesting question. Dr. Vikram has also brought out certain valid aspects. The problem we face, the first problem we are actually facing is the presence of these the ISS modules or leaders who have come into India and established a base within our own society. The issue is the civil society here, I would like to bring out, has to play a much larger role. It's very easy to say that the security forces will monitor this and monitor that, but it is the civil society. It is extremely important. We know who is living in our own neighborhood. In the example of Thane, we found that a huge cache of arms, ammunition were being stored in a flat, and the neighbors, I'm surprised, were not aware of this activity. And there is a responsibility of the civil society today, and through your program, I would like to emphasize this, that you have a role to play to protect our nation. You are a part of our own sovereignty, and therefore if any such elements are there in your neighborhood, you must report them. The second important aspect is about policing. We have beat constables, we have every small locality covered by certain amount of policemen. So here is the important role of policing to actually come into play, because these people must know who all are staying in the locality and what kind of activities they're indulging. The third, as mentioned by Dr. Vikram Singh, is electronic surveillance. It is extremely important to monitor all these social media actually groups, all sort of email activities, mobile phones, chatter on also has to be monitored. And the fourth most important aspect is the synergy between the intelligence agencies at the state level and at the center. Unfortunately, in some states,
absolutely, well said.
This I have observed in states which are ruled by parties which is not there in the center. Mm-hmm. I'm not making a political statement, but I'm making a realistic statement here. The parties which don't have the same leadership of the same party in other states, they tend to avoid sharing certain information with the central agencies. We have seen in West Bengal, we have seen interference where the CBI or the ED wants to investigate a particular case and they have been denied. So let us talk about the country as a nation. Let us not divide this country on
Absolutely.
political
Very
lines,
interesting
and it is
points that you're
extremely
raising.
important. It is extremely important that this kind of information, whatever intelligence is being gathered at the state level, it must be shared with the central agency.
Absolutely. All right. Well, unfortunately, we'll have to leave it there because we're a little short in time. But Major General Rajan Kochar, defense expert, thank you so much for joining us, giving us your expert analysis on this. Dr. Vikram Singh, former DGP UP, thank you so much as well for joining us and giving us your expert analysis on this as well.